Okay, so when I took Timothy back to Hillsdale on Sunday, after I had helped him to unload into his dorm room and we were heading out to eat, we had a problem with getting the F250 started. And there's two issues at play, but at this point I'm just going to talk about the starter issue. So tried to crank it a few times and seemed to have plenty of battery power, and all of a sudden it just wouldn't crank at all. So we were in an intersection at the time. Unfortunately, some good Samaritans pushed us, out of the intersection into a nearby parking lot, and at that point, I went to work trying to figure out what was going on. And it didn't take long before I found this. So I couldn't see it because, as installed in the truck, this, what is now, I know, a grounding strap, that's like woven copper right there. This is on top of the starter, so when you're underneath the truck, you couldn't see. But this terminal was connected, or should have been connected, to this post on the starter solenoid, and it wasn't. Now, the reason why is that this had loosened up, which had caused some arcing and sparking. And you're putting, let's see, cold cranking amps. I got 2 batteries. I'm putting 2,000 amps through the starter when I'm turning the engine over in good weather. In other words, not cold. In cold weather, it's down to, say, 1,700. But this is a lot of amps. And all that arcing and sparking basically burned up what had been a ring terminal, and this basically just came off, and that's why it wouldn't start. So basically, from under the truck, I was able to grab this with a pair of pin nose pliers and then push my pin nose pliers up against this terminal, and then I had Timothy crank it over, and we were able to get it started, and I just didn't shut it down till I got home. So now, today I'm trying to organize the repair, and I ended up having to take the starter out altogether. I'm going to buy a new solenoid. The solenoid worked when I used my pin nose pliers, so inside the solenoid there's not a problem, but this terminal is a problem. There's no way I can get that nut tightened because it has eroded the stud such that I can't tighten it up anymore. So, and again, this is copper for maximum conductivity. So I have that ordered. Then I'm going to have to fix this. I was hoping that I could just unscrew it here, but this is some sort of permanent installation here. So I've ordered some kit that should allow me to replace this terminal. And then all I have to do is get this old terminal off, which shouldn't be too much of a chore. I'll put the new terminal on, reinstall the starter, then reinstall the starter solenoid, and then I'll be able to hook my new terminal up to my new starter solenoid, and we should be good to go. So, I mean, obviously I'm spending some time on this, but the total cost for parts and tools is going to be less than $100. Just to put that in perspective, the solenoid is $70, and then if I'd had to buy a new starter, because that's what most people would do, they wouldn't, this would be a showstopper, and we're replacing the solenoid anyway, so why not? Well, the starter is over $200, and that's before it's installed. So probably would have been a tow to a shop, and I'm imagining the bill would have been at least $500. So getting away for about $100 and some hours of my time. Anyway, just thought you might want to see what was going on with the F250. Thanks for watching. Okay, so I've cleaned the starter up. Got the new solenoid. This is the old solenoid. Cable off the battery goes here. This is the grounding strap that goes on this, and then a signaling wire goes to this terminal here, the small one. So I got the old terminal off of here. They using a lot of different tools, vice grips, cold chisel, hacksaw, so on and so forth. It wasn't easy. This is, again, it's like a rope made out of copper. And so now I've got that into my new terminal, and I'm going to use this crimper to crimp this terminal on just like this, because when the solenoid mounts to the starter, I don't want to have to twist the cable to get it on that post. So I'm lined up. Now I'm just going to use this crimper, which I bought actually for fencing applications. And this is what I bicycled to town for, an assortment of these terminals. So now I'm just going to crimp that on, and I'll show you that when I'm done. Okay, now it's crimped on. So I am ready now to I'll start by installing the starter without the solenoid, because having the solenoid not here allows me better access to getting this bolt installed between the starter and the transmission housing, because otherwise I'm completely blind to this hole when the solenoid is installed. So once I get the 3 mounting bolts installed and the starter secured, then I will go about the business of installing the solenoid, which is just held on by a couple of Phillips head screwdrivers, which I can get to. They come in from the back here, and I can get to those just with an extension on a 1/4 inch socket, so that'll work, no problem. Okay, and here within, this isn't going to be easy, because these, especially this top starter mounting bolt that's a chore to get in. But certainly I would say within an hour I should be back up and running. Okay, so this is where the starter goes, and then the solenoid drives a gear into the flywheel there, which is what turns the engine over. But this is that top bolt hole, which is obscured from the top by the exhaust manifold, and from the bottom by the solenoid if I have it mounted. So I'm going to put the starter up in here, get these 3 bolts in, then I'll worry about getting the solenoid attached. Okay, just so you know, I did clean up the bolts and put a little grease on them before installation. Okay, it went in quicker than I thought. So I've got my 3 bolts in, one up beyond the solenoid mount as well. This is my grounding strap for the solenoid, perfectly positioned. Let's see, this is the energizing wire for the solenoid, and then this is the juice coming from the battery to actually roll over the starter motor. Okay, and then I just noticed while I was down here, grounding straps are several on the truck, but this is one. So this grounding strap attaches the frame. Okay, so this is actually a big body mount right here. I'm just behind the right front wheel. So basically, this is where the cab is mounting, one of its mounts. So you have a grounding strap to the frame, or from the frame to the actual sheet metal of the body. That's right here. Okay, just thought you might be interested. And here we are, installation complete. So basically I'm going to have to take a shower before I can get in the driver's seat, but everything looks good. All the wires are connected back up to the solenoid. Solenoid's connected to the starter. Starter's connected to the transmission housing. Everything should be ready to roll. Next step, test run. Alright. I am the glow plug controller. 1003, 1004, 1005, 1006, 1007, 1008, 1009, 1010, 1011, 1012, 1013. That's how it's supposed to be. Alright, chalk another one up for a shade-free mechanic.